You ready?
Yeah.
All right, what's up, guys? You're here with Gym Therapy Inc. We have, I don't know your name.
Oh, that's a good. See, we didn't even.
We're gonna have to try that again. I do know your name. Justin sent me a whole thing on you, but I completely forget it. Yes. So we're gonna have to try that all again.
All right.
You got it. I was just looking at that. You got it. Go ahead.
I don't know your name.
Oh, it's Jen.
Do you want me to tell you?
I would love for you to tell me.
My name's Jennifer Van Wieren, and I'm a licensed therapist, and I have a small practice in town.
Perfect.
In Indiana, PA.
Good, yeah. And of course, we got Justin over here, drinking his Rockstar. Mm-hmm. It is, what is it, July 16th.
We're just going to use that as the opening. I like it. I like it.
Sure, just go for it.
I appreciate it.
Just feel so embarrassed now that I forget our guest name. But
that's all right. Jen Van Wieren.
Jen Van Wieren. Small practice in Indiana. How's that going for you?
It's going good. I enjoy it.
Good. How long have you been here?
I've been in Indiana, PA for about 20 years, but I was a stay-at-home mom for a while. And then around 2009, I got back into work.
Yeah. Okay. Good. And where'd you come from?
Western PA, like Penn Trafford area.
Okay. Yeah. That's a little far.
Yeah.
What brought you here? IUP?
My husband got a job at IUP.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Good. Anyway, so let's get on with our weeks. Justin, how's he going?
I'm good. I had a good week this week. Do you want to go over your stuff first?
Sure.
We'll just let you.
I haven't been here for a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
2 weeks ago on Friday, I guess, a friend of mine, a really, really super good friend of mine, we had a community, like a company party, and a couple of my friends left from that party, went, to get something to eat, had a good time or whatever, and then decided to go to work later on. And on his way to work, he didn't make it.
So you went to a company party and had a friend had a car accident.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And just a couple of days ago, we had his funeral. I need to say this, he brought such a present to work. Everything isn't how it should be, just because of the way that his presence was while we were working. When I first became a BHA at this job, he was becoming a supervisor, so he was training and trying to do all this training stuff, but he's part of the 3 or 4 people that taught me everything I knew at that job.
Is he a supervisor?
He became a supervisor.
Is he a BHA also?
He was, yes, at first, yes, he was. And then he went to college. He was a massage therapist. He was in the military. He did all these things. You have to have so many credits to be a supervisor.
It's a pretty full life for only 28 years old, you say?
Absolutely.
That's a lot of stuff.
He did a lot of stuff. He drove truck for a while. He, like I said, massage therapist, I think.
What was his name, bud?
His name was Rick.
Rick. What was his last name?
Rick Muth.
Nice.
Yeah, and
we'll put something in here for him.
Yeah, he was a very strong presence, and one of the kids, he's very severely autistic. He knows what's going on around him, but when something very drastic happens, he can't let go of it. So one of the other supervisors that's been at where I work for, I think 23 years she's been there, she gave him one of Rick's hats. You can't wear hats in the building. Staff can, but he cannot. So he carries this hat around all the time. And he's very obsessed with having a notebook and just drawing and drawing and drawing and drawing. Pictures mostly of people. He draws a little triangle dress and a little, whatever. But he has a full notebook and full folder of his drawings of Rick. And every time he sees me and 2 or 3 other people that were fairly close to Rick, he's like, Miss Alyssa, this is you and Mr. Rick and Mr. So-and-so. And we're like, okay. And he just keeps crying and crying and crying. And I'm like, look, kid, your crying makes me upset. I have to do my job, so I need you to be strong for me. And once I tell him, I said, hey, I need you to be strong for me. You're like, cry your own time,
buddy.
Yeah.
Yeah, at least you're getting paid to cry.
I mean, I guess so. But he's a strong little kid, but he makes everybody around him sad on purpose.
Really?
Yeah. But all these kids, we have a whole shrine in the building of pictures for Rick. We have his actual picture up. We have crosses and all this other stuff. He was Orthodox, so the kids really liked him. They really did. And he had definitely had a lot going for him. He struggled with some things at home, but
Yeah, it's tough. Anytime you lose somebody like that, that's when you kind of start to reflect, and it kind of hits you yourself a little bit too. You start to look at your own life, and that's something you've had to do a handful of times over the years. Yeah,
absolutely. In actual Easter Sunday this year, my brother and I lost a really good friend in a motorcycle accident. So,
Jen, I have to assure you that you're safe. Don't worry.
I feel safe. I just feel like you've had a lot of losses, and that must be really hard for those kids. They probably come from trauma.
Absolutely.
And then to experience the loss of someone that they have you made a connection to. What was it about him as a person that you said he made a presence there? What was it about him?
Well, I can't say he was always smiling, because that would be false. But, like, he was stern, and the kids listened to him. Whenever you first start a job like this, you have to let the kids know that you're strong, and they can't get past you. Like, not physically, but emotionally, they can't get past you. They can't manipulate you into something they think that, well, I asked that, for lack of a better example, I asked this staff member to go get me a book, and they didn't go get me a book. So now I'm going to ask this one.
They played Mom vs. Dad that game.
And that gets them consequences. It really does. But Rick didn't go for their BS. He definitely knew. And it didn't take him long, from what I understand from other people that I've worked with. He didn't ever let any of these kids walk on him. Of course, there are a few certain kids that we build a little stronger bond with than some of the other kids. It just happens that way, just for every person that I work with.
You this week? Did you just get off vacation?
Yeah, I went on a vacation. I have 4 kids, age 24 to 16, so my 24-year-old, well, he's 23. I always make him a little bit older. This fall he'll be that. He lives in Baltimore, so it was really nice to just have everybody under one roof. But there was like 9 of us, because 3 of them brought their
Definitely doesn't look like you have a kid that's 24.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, but so that was a good trip. And then this week I've been learning to swim laps.
There you go.
So I love to work out like you guys.
Nice.
But
he doesn't love to work out. What are you talking about?
So I love
this is gym therapy.
I love sports, and I
Yeah.
think the whole reason I may have started this is just to motivate myself to work out twice a week.
Oh, okay. Well, is it working?
It's good. I'm doing better.
You do records at schools, don't you?
Yeah, but like that has nothing to do with
Really?
working out though. That like Trista's our guru. She's
okay.
she's
Are
the
you the
CrossFit,
mental health part and she's the gym part?
Yeah, I'm
Pretty
not
much.
qualified for any of it, so I just kind of fake all of it and then try to bring everybody together. So
I'm faking it too. I think we're doing a good job.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah. I'm starting to enjoy it a little bit better. Man, CrossFit's hard.
It is.
Like
It is
swimming
very
laps. How's that?
I'm just learning. I hired, because I'm usually a runner and I played soccer and things. So, and I've lifted, but now I've older age woman health things
Yeah.
and bad knees. So
Okay.
I'm swimming. So it's new. I feel like a little
Swimming,
kid.
I feel
trying
like,
to
or I've heard, I
figure it out.
think, swimming is the best for your body, because you use it all when you're swimming.
Yeah, all your muscles.
And there's not a lot of hard contact, like whenever you're running or anything, like on your knees
Right,
or anything.
there's like-
so it's a lot of soft.
It's really good and it builds muscle. And like today I did a walk and yoga and stuff. But like that's what I encourage my clients to do, is to be active, especially if you're going to exchange, if someone's going to exchange going off a med or wrestling with how to
Yes.
support their mental health. What's in that pill is in what you can get from the exercise.
My favorite thing about us is we're trying to let the world know that physical health and mental health are both right here. Everybody has both of those things. Whether your physical health might be a little more than your mental health, we're trying to get you to bring it up here. Same as everything else. But not everybody has an actual diagnosed mental illness.
Yeah.
Those are Justin's words most times, but
It's regurgitated, but it's like not everybody has mental illness, but everybody has mental health. Same
Yes.
Same
That's
as
excellent.
thank you.
Yeah.
That it's not just like physical health. I don't physically have diabetes. No physical illness, but physical health. It just goes hand in hand. And I like to be able to have people like you said. I thought that was a pretty good statement. What you can get in that pill, you can get from exercise.
absolutely.
And it's pretty incredible. And when you can kind of work on mental, physical, and stack those things. You don't want to stack too many coping mechanisms. That might be when it's time to reflect. But those are my tools for in the belt. You know?
Yeah,
Yeah, we do a group at work. Well, every day except for Tuesday and Thursday, we have a group like a home safety, personal care, drug and alcohol, violence, these kind of things. And then Tuesday and Thursday are conflict resolution, where the kids can turn a conflict within their unit and be able to sit in a room and talk about them. A lot of times that doesn't happen, but we have these groups where we sit around and we read a handout, which is given to us once a week. But then after that, they have this whole big long spiel about all the rules that go on a unit. And they talk about, at the very end, they're like, goals or recap or coping skill or personal feelings. What would you like, sir and ma'am, whoever is on the unit, male or female. So a lot of times, I don't say, oh, just give me a goal and recap for today and I'll just write it down. No, let me know how you're really feeling. Let me know what a coping skill is for you. Right. Let me know if you're feeling, give me a personal feeling, whether or not you're feeling crappy or good. Give me a positive personal feeling so I can write that down and put it in your notes so I can let your therapist know that you had a good day.
You know, the first time I knew a doctor genuinely cared, and I know everyone does to a degree. My doctor, it was Dr. Lynn. He was in Indiana. He's retired now. But he said, "How are you doing?" I said, "Good." And then he said, "Now, how are you actually doing?" And I was like, you got me. How'd you know? We just met.
Yeah.
You don't know me.
Right.
I think that's you bringing that up about a doctor. So I recently moved a couple months ago. So being in a different county, having medical assistance, you have to go to the county that you're in to get any kind of medical assistance medications. So I had to switch to Westmoreland County, and the doctor that I have there, I met him the end of last month, and it turns out that it was the same doctor that I met in rehab that put me on the Sublocade shot. And when I met him, he's like, "Oh, is this your first shot?" I said, "No, you put me on this shot 2 years ago almost."
Nice.
And he's like, "Oh, wow," because he is a part of the rehab we went to, and he's the one that, I don't want to say talked me into the shot, but gave me the information I needed to know, did the things he should have done to lead me up to.
Good news is he didn't talk you out of it.
Yeah, he talked me out of Vivitrol and talked me into Sublocade, but either way, it doesn't matter.
And I think for you, that was the correct choice after all the stuff we kind of talked about.
A couple seizures in rehab, and I feel like those are more from the benzo aspect of my addiction, but either way, it all turns out to be the way it should be, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. You want me to tell you about my week?
Yes, please.
I didn't do anything this week exciting.
Good.
I didn't. I watched There Will Be Blood. Did you ever watch that movie?
No.
And No Country for Old Men.
That's
I've been sitting on both those movies for like 15 years, and I watched them this week finally. That was the highlight of my week.
That's a pretty good highlight.
It was. And I got Chase, Trista, and I got set up to be a grant for some coaching thing. I'll throw some information out to you guys later about that. That was actually a big deal. And then I got invited to go to a training at UPJ where the drummer for Rusted Root, and it's on music and therapy and that stuff. So I'm going to do that later in July. I got invited to do that too.
That's
so that
amazing.
was, and I have a mustache now.
Look at people
So,
noticing
yeah,
us.
I know.
Oh,
Look at that.
yeah.
Yeah, the mustache is the most
that's
important
it.
part though.
That's key. Justin has never been able to grow.
It's the first time I sent a picture
like
to Liz. I was like,
38,
"Should I leave it?" And she said yes. And I was like,
"Where do you want
"You
me to
talking
leave
to
it?"
me?" Yeah.
Well, you could have kept Jersey and was licking your forehead too.
I know.
Yeah.
Jersey isn't in here today. She's usually in with us, but she's not here today.
She was Mama.
She's with Mom. They're grocery shopping. So Jen, talk to us. What's it like being a therapist in general? Is it pretty cool?
Yeah. I was thinking about this week, or since we talked about what the topic might be. I think it's really interesting. Every time a lot of people come into therapy because their own past trauma and their own things that they've had to work through, and people that have been there, or the lack of care they had, or the care that they had. So a lot of times in the room, you can't help but have a little bit of part of you as a therapist, you're really present with the person in front of you. You really care about them. But once in a while, I find myself saying, like, wow, she's so good to their mom. I need to go call my mom when I get out of session.
Yeah.
Like, I learn from my clients. Or they'll say things and they'll have insight that blows me away. And I want them to know that. Like, that I'm a very collaborative, genuine, like, I was trying to think of what I explain to my clients is, it's like we put a puzzle out together and we start working on it. It's very much like, you found a piece. Oh, what do you think about this piece? Like, I work with you, like, because you're the expert on you. I'm just here with some tools and some insight, and you and I are going to find coping skills that, like, help throughout the week for, like, regulating emotion. But we're also going to do some of the deeper work, like that. What age did you start thinking that way, or believing that thing, or accusing yourself of that?
Sure. And I feel like having this job that I just have, I'm able to, like, I'm talking to teenage kids, so what am I scared of? You know, they're teenage boys. What do you? Yeah, not been a teenage boy, but either way, like, you know, but they're teenagers in a different generation than we were, so it's finding the way to talk to each person, because every kid is you have to talk to each kid differently. But what I found is, in talking to these kids, I have always felt like I had a problem standing up for myself and saying what I really feel and saying what I really mean, and I'm afraid to call off work. Like, I'm afraid that my boss is going to scream at me, which
isn't that funny.
Shut up.
No. I mean, I didn't mean that.
Isn't that funny?
I said, isn't that? No, that's funny. That's how we were raised. That was like,
I'm afraid to tell you know. I'm afraid to tell you guys. You know what? I'm really tired today. I'm sick. I just want to sleep in. That makes my anxiety go outside the roof. Having this job and being able to stand firmly in front of a kid and say, this is what you're doing wrong and this is how you need to fix it, has made me in my personal life be able to say, Justin, this is what you're doing wrong and this is how I think you need to fix it.
Yeah.
It's made me be able to actually stand on my own feet and say, this is what you're doing that's bothering me and I need you to fix it somehow. This might not be the words, but like, it's definitely been something that's made me be able to say, just say what you feel, man. Just say what you mean.
That's so powerful, because I think the biggest thing in early life is our attachments. The first people in our lives being present with us and helping us recognize what we need and what we feel and what we want. Those early attachments, and we're not always taught that that's important or how to do that. And probably, like myself and all my clients and all my friends and family, we all struggle with people pleasing, and then also just being able to say what we need, think, and feel. And it's so amazing when you can learn that voice. Sometimes it starts out like we're quiet about it and we pendulum into being very aggressive, like, and then we pendulum back to like, it's a skill I think we'll learn till we go to the grave, kind of just figuring out in different situations. But it's so brave and it's so amazing you're teaching those kids, because like, some substance abuse and numbing out is not having the ability to see your own self, what you think, feel, and need, and getting to that, and also asking for help or being in relationships with people who care about what you think, feel, and need.
Well, we have a lot of kids there, maybe between 20 and 25% of the kids there that don't even know what love and kindness and caring are, because they've never had it, never felt it, never been given it, any of that. So they're there in this facility not doing anything at all because they're just being cared for.
It's wild you said those attachment issues or attachment things when you're really young. I don't know that we always had the joke, like especially in the 90s, was, weren't you hugged enough as a kid? Isn't that's real?
It's essential. And there's big T traumas, but there's little T traumas. But every human being is even if you had excellent present parents, they couldn't always be present for you for what you needed. Or you could be in a more sensitive person in a stoic home, and so you didn't felt hurt or needed, or you felt like too much. So I think you can't be present enough with your children. Like, I think there was a period of time we went to a church that they talked about, like, just let the baby cry it out. Like, let the baby cry it out.
That's the program I went to. When I went to the program, they're like, put your kid in a crib and let her scream.
Yeah. And I think that that's counter to the communication that a baby and a child needs. And eventually, if they learn somebody's there, like, the crying is the communicating.
Sure.
And if you're in a home where your first attachments are there and present, then you learn to be there and present. That you're important enough for that.
Sure.
It's very complex too, and it's not something that's audibly said to you. It's stuff you just have to learn. You just pick up.
Yeah.
And Dr. Bruce Perry,
Okay.
Boy Who Was Raised as a Dog.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's one of the best books I've ever read.
It is. It's phenomenal. That's one of the first ones I had her read whenever she came out, got out, and that it was incredible. Like some of those kids, they'd be put somewhere and for 12 hours be completely by themselves. And as an infant, and 30 years later, it manifested some way as a problem because they just never learned how to do that stuff. That all those unspoken feelings.
Yeah, I think that's more the unconscious work that we have going on.
Okay.
Like when we have a behavior in the now, or where we have a part of ourselves that numbs something out, or that turns, like some of the work I do is internal family systems, which means like you have a strong self that you're born with, and then when you have events or traumas or big traumas in your life, you develop parts of yourself. Sure. Like I have a rebellious teen part. Then if I get in an argument with my husband, it comes out. We've been married 30 years, but so it comes out maybe twice a year, maybe more. But it's kind of like, you're not going to effing tell me what to do. I'm out of here. I'm finding a realtor. And I'll go into work and see 3 clients, and I'll sit back and think, I think we should just get pizza. And what were we watching on Netflix? I'm going to go home. I'm excited to see him.
Why are we still arguing about this? Yes,
but
absolutely.
That I have to realize is from my rebellious teen part that I developed in childhood trauma that wants fight or flight, out of here, and I'm done. And that part of me doesn't know my husband, who's my best friend for 30 years, and got triggered into being this I'm out of here part. So like, when you sit with the therapist, it's really good work to find like IFS, EMDR trauma therapists that can help you for some of the patterns you can't see yourself. Like more than cope. Cope is great because it gets you through the moment. But knowing what, like we all have tons of parts. Like I have my mom part, my wife part, but I also have some, we wouldn't say no bad parts, but parts that get very active. Like
one of the things that are like, we talk to our friends and we're like, well, instead of talking to me because I'm only seeing your side, why don't you go see a therapist so it's an outside perspective that doesn't know anything about you, that doesn't know who you are, where you've been, how you've been, what you're going through. Go and talk to them and just get an outside perspective other than somebody that knows you. I don't need to pay somebody to tell me about myself. Yeah. That's one of the things that bothers me. We'll cover that so in the second half of this. I want to go over that. Yeah. But whenever you have those days with your husband, who comes to the table and says, "Hey, I messed up." Is it both of you? Is it you? Is it him?
He's an amazing guy.
Is he? Good.
You had to say that.
Awesome.
I'm learning. I have a part that learned to not say sorry because my parents did not say sorry. So I've worked on saying sorry.
Or I'm not saying sorry because I didn't do anything wrong.
Right. So now and he would say so. I'm really working hard on saying I'm sorry and taking responsibility for my behavior. I've been easily able to do it with my children because I care for them and I don't want them to grow up without someone in their life that loves them, that takes responsibility. But so it's a part of me that's developed that. Isn't
it funny, even if it's physically, financially, whatever, you try to give your kids the things that you didn't have, and then you're going to do all this, and then as your kids get older, there's still going to be stuff that they have to work on, and that stuff that we didn't
noticing.
Know. Yeah, but noticing. But we constantly give the previous generation and the generation before that a bunch of shit for not teaching us how to deal with mental health and whatnot.
Just throw some dirt on it.
But just rub some dirt on it. It was basically, but a lot of the stuff was never brought up to them. It was never.
Right, they
and
didn't
They
have
would tell us stuff like, now there's superfoods, eat your vegetables. Intermittent fasting, eat your breakfast. Like all these fancy new things we have come up are things that our parents told us. They just gave it to us the best way they could in different words. And I think that's really good because I had a boss tell me one time, he's like, man, if you ever have kids, he's like, you can be the best parent in the world and your kid can grow up to be a jerk. And he goes, you can be the worst one and your kid can grow up to be a great person. He's like, I don't understand it. But I think it's like anything, the better you do, the better your chances are coming out of it.
Yeah, and educating them along the way. And when I have my own therapist. When you work on yourself, like I need to see things outside of myself in a different way from my therapist. But the more I'm able to be present and see myself clearly, the more I can see them in the room and what they need, my children.
Mm-hmm.
And I've asked all of them to go to therapy and to deal with the stuff that I did that I didn't realize I did. Because I'm a human being and I'm not going to get it right.
Is it too personal to ask you if they do?
It might be their business.
Okay.
But I think, there's been times in my life too as a parent and they've been like, don't be a therapist, you're my mom. So maybe I've been a little bit.
I think some of that's argumentative inside the household too, because like you know what you are, so your kids trying to get their way, so they're like, don't be a therapist, be my mom, because that's the answer I want right now.
But thanks for asking me that, even though I would love to answer that.
My boyfriend is a boss at work, so sometimes he still comes home as, I'm the boss. Most days, but after I'm like, all right, let's bring it down here and let's talk about it on our level. And he'll sit there like Jesse does for a good 20 minutes and he's like, all right, let's do this. And you know what? We'll bring it down, we'll stop yelling, and we'll literally talk. He's like, I'm sorry, because he's been getting a lot better at saying, you look, Les, this was my fault, I'm sorry. Same as me.
That's
hey,
fair.
Look, Jesse, I'm sorry, this was my fault. I'm acting like an asshole and I'm bringing up something that shouldn't even be here right now. So
all right.
We can get stuck in like a part, like if you're a boss and then I get, shifting into the home and your relationship from where you are, that's his boss part. It's a strong part. It's a great part and it works good there and maybe even the home sometimes, but just not in those moments.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be back in a minute.
All right, guys, we're back. We just had a little break. Just wanted to catch up with what we're going to say here in the next however many minutes.
Boy, that went fast.
Yeah,
It did.
That was fun.
I wrote down, the number of minutes was going on my phone, and we're just like, 24 minutes. I think we ended up going to like 28, but either way, man, it's just whenever you get into personal feelings, the way our jobs go, the way that things in our life, like things outside of our personal lives, jobs, experiences, seeing somebody at Sheets that opens the door for us or whatever, goes into things we do at work, and then they reflect on things we do at home, like, I should hold the door for this person. I walked out of Sheets today, I need to say this, and there was a man standing on the other side of the door, and I was walking through, I saw him, and I'm walking through the door, I'm waiting for this man, an elderly gentleman, to open the door, very capable of opening the door, and I'm waiting for him to open the door as I'm walking through it. I'm like, is he going to open the door, is what I thought, and he put his hands in his pockets to reach for something, and I opened the door for myself. It was like kind of an expectation of, this man is over 50, you would think he would open the door for me. And that's just like, it's weird how that's automatically where my brain went. Was somebody, not that somebody should do something for me, but isn't that what you were taught?
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm just like, all right, whatever. I had to go back in the store because I forgot something. And then there were 3 gentlemen that like were standing in a whole line behind each other, holding the door for every woman that walks through it before me. So I don't know. I just feel like that.
Did you say, sir, did I lose my fastball? Is that what's going on here right now?
No, but it's just weird that these gentlemen were all in the same generation, and there's 3 of them trying to hold doors for me, and the first one didn't.
Yeah.
I don't know.
All right, so Jen.
It's interesting. Like the therapist in me is like what's going on in that other person that they couldn't be present with you in the minute. But our thought goes right away to what's wrong with me. And that's the thing over and over and over again in life is kind of like, okay, maybe this isn't about me,
Mhm.
but this would be nice.
Sure.
Like it's both and. I love both and because it's both. Hey, he should have opened a freaking door for you.
Yeah.
I would have opened a door for you. And what's going on in him,
Yeah.
right? So every time we get kind of hurt or dismissed or not seen is that question. Because we have a right to be like, that was not cool.
Yeah.
And sit with that. Like, that's not great. I didn't like that. And what's going on in them? And
Yeah.
maybe that's not even an excuse, but it gives me information for.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's so funny because it could have just completely been just a lack of, he just wasn't paying attention. And you spend your whole day spun.
Right.
He's like, why didn't this guy open a door for me? And the guy's like,
Yeah.
who are you? I
He's
didn't
like
even see you.
looking for something in his pocket.
Yeah.
You know, like he
He's
doesn't
like, did
know.
that check clear?
I saw
Right.
this.
Like, what-
Right.
Yeah.
Like
saw
he's
this-
a little ADHD
Yeah.
or dementia.
Yeah.
I saw this video the other morning. I actually sent it to Jesse. It was a group of, I think there's 4 or 5 males. They're all brothers. And they have like a gazillion followers on TikTok and Facebook and stuff. And they're doing this little random dance with Paula Abdul. And it says, my morning routine. And then at the top it says, the initials for I don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
And then it says ADHD, anxiety, and then 2 other things. And all these people had words above their heads. And this is like, this is my morning routine, getting ready for my day. ADHD, I think, was one of them too. And this little dance, I'm like, perfect. Let's add in a tad of overthinking to that, a
Yes,
little bit of
100%.
depression, and that'll be my morning.
Right. Maybe some disassociation.
Yes, and the good news is
Just
just
for
all
fun.
day, every day. for
Yeah.
the rest of the time, right? Well,
I have a shirt that says professional overthinker on it.
That's awesome.
Oh, yeah.
should say I think on the back.
Right. That's hilarious. Maybe you should. Yeah, that.
Yeah.
Maybe you should make that T-shirt.
Yeah, right. I
I
like
do
that.
want to.
Because they're walking away and you
Uh-huh.
say, I think, on their
Listen.
back.
You're gonna get one. All right, $25.
For that, at least, you get a hoodie that's $55, I think.
But 20, that's a donation, so 75. No, I'm kidding.
Like I said, before or when we went to break, I wanted to ask you, like, when you're sitting with people and you hear something somebody says and it's so traumatic, you're like, I don't know what to say to you.
Yeah.
Does your anxiety flare up? Like, how does?
Yeah, I mean, there's been times in the room I've had to take deep, slow breaths because I'm really invested in my client
Sure.
and hearing their story. And there's been times I've like teared up. Lately, I've had a lot of allergies, so my clients are like, "Wow,
What
she's
are
a
you
mess."
doing?
And as
Yeah.
a therapist, I think we're human beings in the room, and when you hear something sad, you cry.
Sure.
It's not like my clients have to save me because
Yeah.
that would be wrong. This is their time. But if I have like a tear or two,
Mhm.
like, you know, I'll just say out loud, that is so incredibly sad.
Mhm.
Like, I'll put a label to it, like, or wow, that would just make me furious. I can't fucking believe
Yeah.
that happened to you.
Yeah, sure.
Because I think it's like co-regulation is when someone's very, very, very sad. I feel like the therapist has to be present and meet with them in some way. Not that they need to be taken care
Yeah,
of, but
sure.
like, I get you, and then I'm going to help bring you here.
It's the empathy part.
We're
too.
gonna like come back down together. I'm gonna be with you here. Then we're gonna come here, and then we're gonna like process this out because our frontal cortex, our ability to think through our problems, when we're dysregulated, we can't.
Yeah.
But if we can come down and take deep breaths and work through all that emotion, then we can get to a place like we
Like a
can start to
foundation.
work through that
Sure.
with all of our faculties. But yeah, we forget humans are in the room, and a lot of my therapist friends, like, they love their clients. That's why
Yeah.
they're my therapist friends.
Yeah, of course.
You know, so
You can tell you really like this.
Mhm.
Like, it
love
just,
it.
yeah.
Yeah.
You really can. I like that.
I love my people, and I love what I do.
and
I love
this,
learning
the whole,
how to
the whole
help them.
process of
Can
it
I ask
and
how
how
many you
interesting
have?
it is too.
So right now I probably see like 23 people a week.
That's a
And,
lot.
Yeah.
Once a week usually, or
Yeah, but some of those people I see once a month and some every other.
yeah.
So I have a bigger caseload like that I navigate like more people.
yeah.
But
Okay.
a lot of my work is heavy, like trauma work.
Yeah,
Yeah.
remembering is a big deal. I know I don't have a memory
That's
for
why
anything.
I was going to suggest
yeah.
you jot stuff down, but like privately, obviously, so no one else can get it. But 'cause
Yeah.
especially those days when you are feeling tired, and you
Yeah.
are, because it's easy to forget little nuancy things.
Well,
too.
yesterday at work,
I have
I
notes
went
and I have
over.
no idea what they mean.
Yeah.
But yeah.
yesterday, I in a typical day, I get between like 8 and 10,000 steps. Yesterday, I had 17,000 steps.
Wow.
I was floating, like I said, and doing breaks for these people. And then after, in between those breaks, I'm doing laundry or taking clothes down to the linen room or bringing trays up for kids to eat or doing all these things in between. And our elevator's down. So
Oh,
I am
so
up and down
steps.
3 flights of steps all day. And when I sat down, and it's called the unit station, when I sat down in the unit station, I was like, and then my supervisor goes, "Hey, are you busy?" I'm like, "No." He says, "Here, do this." So,
Wow.
and then whatever, I just picked up and I did it and I wrote it, which for me is a really good thing because my supervisor is the one that taught me all the documentation, how to do it, and how to do it properly. And I learned probably 30 different documentation forms in 2 hours whenever I was training. So, and knowing how to, like, Rick taught me a lot of that stuff, my friend that passed.
Yeah.
Like, he taught me a lot of, like, when we have codes and kids get into rumbles and riots and all this stuff, like, we don't get on our computer and just type it away. We have forms that we have to fill out for every single thing that happens, how long, we have to fill out we have to take their blood pressure. Like, it's very extensive. So at the end of the evening, or even when supervisors have time, they're going to fill out incident reports and they're going to fill out the explanation that led up to the problem and then explain the problem, and it can go on and on. So as one supervisor, he is very overwhelmed. So at the very end of the night, I had 15 minutes left of my shift. He's like, "I need you to fill all these out." And there was 3 codes that day, yesterday. So I had to fill out all the paperwork for all the codes. I have no problem doing any of that because I want to help in any way that I can. I want to learn in any way I can. Please let me do this. Please show me how.
Mm-hmm.
But at the very end of the day and you have 15 minutes left, it's just like, can we just sit down for a second?
Yeah.
And I did. And he's like, "Just chill out. You can stay an extra 15 minutes. I'm like, "I don't care if I stay an extra hour. I want to help you. But let me sit here for 5 minutes."
Right.
And
Because your job is both physical and mental.
It
So it
is.
would be. No wonder it's hard.
I'm going to Harrisburg next month to become an SCM trainer. SCM means, what does it mean? Safety Compliance Management.
Nice. Good
So-
for you.
It's basically restraints. So it's 5 days. And like, I learned SCM training in 2 days. What we do at my job is not even remotely close to what's going to happen in Harrisburg. There's over 100 different maneuvers that we're going to learn, 100 different restraints. And then we have to do like a kind of role play situation where I'm the resident and somebody else is restraining me, or back and forth. Also, there's a written test as well. But yeah, back
good.
to
Back to us.
back to y'all guys. I just
Jen,
want to throw that in there.
do you want to talk to us a little bit about different types of therapy? I thought it was really interesting earlier. You said about the puzzle pieces, like
Yeah.
we're both
Yes.
trying to work on a puzzle. I try to talk to men like realistically. Like if you were my boss and we had a problem over here and we had to fix it, I'd say, "Hey Jen, how do we fix this?"
Mm-hmm.
And then we go do it, and then we fix it. You and I together. Whoever comes up with the idea, we both work on it. Problem's fixed.
Right.
Is that what therapy is?
It depends on the therapist.
Okay,
Because I
all
talk
right.
to people in therapy, or people who have therapists before me, or there's different styles. I think, and sometimes, so I have, I'm a licensed professional counselor, and then there's psychologists, and sometimes your background when you come in is more of a medical model. Like, I don't talk to you, I'm a blank slate. Like, I know these answers, or, I'll hear like little tricks some therapists will do, like put something on the ground and see if the client picks it up. I'm not that way.
Yeah,
I'm just a human being. Like,
Yes.
you know everything I know.
Mhm.
And I want to use psychoeducation to teach you, like, right now we're going to, I'll say out loud, this is cognitive behavioral therapy, but basically we're going to work with your thoughts.
Sure.
Like, and this is why this is helpful. This is what this can do. And this is, I want you to challenge a thought to see if the thought is true or helpful. And if it isn't, then maybe it doesn't stay in your heart and soul.
Mm-hmm.
And let's look at something. So I give a lot of like techniques. Like, I like to think that my clients feel really heard and we process their information, but that they also come away with like, hey, I'm going to take that thought and think if it's true or helpful. I kind of describe it like, you know, in The Wizard of Oz, there's the guy behind the curtain.
Oh yeah.
And they're like, I never want my client to feel like they don't know what's going on in the room. I want them to feel safe. Like, I'm not behind a curtain being like, look, I don't know. Like, what's that behavior? You're diagnosed with this. Like, I literally will work through, like, this looks a little like ADHD and sometimes anxiety, but you did have trauma. So maybe this is all trauma. It's Venn diagramming. What do you think?
Yeah.
Or here's an assessment for anxiety. Let's go through that. How do you see this in your life?
I like when you just said, what do you think?
Yes.
You're asking them what they think. Yeah,
Right.
I like that.
No, because you're the professional and you've been there the whole time. And I'll say to my clients, like, I only know your boyfriend from being in this room.
Sure.
You're out there living with him. Like, this is my thoughts. What do you think? Right? Because I can't be out in the room and out of this room seeing you live out your life and what patterns you have in that relationship. Like, I wonder what you think about this or this. Now, I come with some skills and strengths, so I'm more able to say it seems more like this.
Sure.
But I'm not going to.
It's hard to not be one-sided, but
but if I feel a little one-sided, I will actually say that out loud. Like, I'm really concerned about this, you know, if that makes sense. That's
No,
the way
absolutely.
I
makes
work.
good. Yeah.
Cognitive behavioral therapy. So.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
No, that's all right. No,
So that's basically you use your thoughts lead to feelings, and those feelings lead to behaviors.
Okay.
So if we start with your thought, we can lower the distress or change your feelings about something.
Okay.
So if we take the thought, like, that dog is going to bite me, that's going to lead to more anxious feelings. And the behavior might be, I stay away from dogs, which I could really love dogs. So that's that kind of theory. So when you know, a lot of therapists use that all the time.
Oh, yeah.
But what I'm finding with my clients is they'll say, I know my friends like me, but I feel like they don't care about me. I can show you ways my family has shown me that they love me, but I feel like they don't care about me. Even when I watch my thoughts but I put the facts there. Well, like, my friend just called me, she spent time with me, but I feel like she doesn't care about me. So that's cognitive behavioral, but it doesn't always work with our nervous system and some of the deeper trauma work.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I do teach coping skills, cognitive behavioral therapy, but then I slide into
trauma. How do you
work.
put those two together?
Some like pattern recognition.
The next step for me is, so like, when I first meet clients, I do assessments, then I teach coping skills, and then I teach about the nervous system.
Okay.
So are you in fight and flight? Are you in the green, safe, and social space? Are you depressed, paralyzed, down under? And you can be in that place all day long, different places, or people can put you there. Safe and social is where we want to try to be. It's a goal. But, you know, if we're finding I'm not in the green, safe and social area.
Yeah.
I'm a little revved up.
I
I'm
usually
talking
sweat
louder.
so much
Yeah.
when we start these. Like today, I woke up this morning at like 5:15. So I was because I was anxious about this, because you're a professional and we're like, I'm not. We're not at all. We have our own little qualifications here and there, but like I was, and I've been looking forward to this so much. And I'm just glad you came on. This is exciting. But this is the first time I'm a little sweaty, but I'm not as sweaty. So
that's a different. The way therapy is moving, or some of us in the trauma work are looking at polyvagal therapy, which is, what is my nervous system doing? So my thought might be, this dog is not scary. It's a little puppy, but my heart is racing, my body is racing, and I'm in fight and flight. How do I get my body to relax? You know, my body needs to know this dog isn't scary, but I did get bit by a dog. So my nervous system reacts to a dog with my heart racing, no matter what my thoughts say.
Right, but it's hard, like, when you're in that situation and you're standing in front of that dog, you're like, all right, let me process my feelings.
Yeah.
Let me process how my thoughts make my feelings work, and then how are my feelings going to make my behaviors.
Right.
That's hard for
And that bam, the whole time you
typical
got
person
bit.
to do it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you're like, yeah, I
all
knew
right.
it.
Yeah, like self-fulfilling
Yeah.
prophecy.
Right,
Like,
yeah.
My
I'm-
therapist had to think about my feelings, and then I'm going to think about my patterns, and, then my
Right.
behaviors, and then like,
Yeah.
fuck, they just bit me.
You're like,
Yeah.
So that's
when did
why,
it, when did it get night out? I've been-
that's when you know you're not in the safe and social zone because
Yeah.
you can't think. Right?
Clearly, yeah.
So that's when you work with your body. Like you step
Right.
away from the dog, you take deep breaths, you take care of your body physically. And then that's why when you're in an argument with someone, you're flooded and you can't stop. You know your thoughts aren't correct. So you can't do the cognitive behavioral work.
And
you
you're telling
step
yourself-
away and you
Dysregulate.
take deep breath,
You're
dysregulate.
telling yourself,
Good,
just,
all right.
just
Then
stop
you
this
can think
argument.
better.
Just stop it. Just let them argue with themselves. Just don't say anything back, and you're just
But then
Just
they,
stop
badly.
because
Then
you're
you
in
say-
fight mode. I'm gonna
yeah.
but then they say
Yeah.
that one word, and you're like, oh, I knew it, I'm back.
Wait. Yeah, because that's fight mode, right? So we are animals, and so we co-regulate with each. So if I'm nervous, without us saying so, I'm gonna put that on you.
Yeah.
We're all gonna sit here like
Well,
shaking.
first
know,
off,
I do
we don't
this.
we don't know each other. Like
Yeah.
we really don't.
No,
so
we don't.
I
Yeah.
met
We're
you
knowing
through
each
we're
other.
knowing each other.
Yeah.
But I met Jen at a coffee shop through Heather Link. She watches this, so
Yeah.
we were sitting
Hey,
there.
Heather.
Yeah, hi Heather and Adam too, and Mike, and everybody else. But
And world.
but we were just kind of all yapping, and I was like, oh crap, this is kind of cool. Like we knew we were like on the same page, on the same wavelength when it comes to like excitement about this. thing.
Yeah.
And then a little
Geeked
social
out.
media here and there. I reached out, and you said you're glad to come on. I'm so happy, but there was no one at my house this morning whenever you got here. It was just me. Les wasn't here yet, and everybody left. And I'm like, let's go to the basement. And you're like, sure.
I know. Venturing out into
What
the
do you mean?
Yeah, you're like, I'm in
Yeah.
the woods by a river, by a
So
Allen
brave.
bridge. Yeah.
You're so brave.
and I'm still
You're like, I'm
alive.
thinking flight.
I-
Yeah.
I'm in the basement yet.
Yeah, that's right.
In my old room.
So, license LPC, right?
Yep.
What's that
Yeah.
stand for?
Licensed professional counselor.
Counselor.
So,
CBT's cognitive behavioral therapy.
right.
TF,
Trauma focused.
trauma focused.
I took an extra certification to work with children with trauma focused cognitive behavioral. It's a
So
whole.
you're not just adults. You're adults and children both.
Yeah,
That's
but
really
I'm
cool.
working more. A lot of the adults I see, we work on past trauma, and then I've worked with a lot of kids in trauma.
Do you work with just the kids, or is there their parents there too?
I work with trauma. With that specific therapy, you help educate the parents how to be there for the kid for the trauma. A lot of
I
times
see.
that might be even foster parents,
Yeah.
but like what those kids need.
right. Okay.
As you're working with a kid through their
Right.
story of what happened to them. And
Wow.
the biggest thing about that is just coming away with what they believed about themselves and
Sure.
that. Like what they've come to believe, and then kind of helping them look at the story and see where the story is, their version has hurt them or is untrue.
Do you see a lot of times where these kids let their trauma define them? And like how they perceive life and how they should live their lives. Well, this happened to me, so I'm just
Mhm.
going to keep the pattern
Sure.
going. A lot of times in sex offenses, you see, kids being sexually abused in their childhood, or they see their parents abusing other things, animals, objects, whatever, and they're like, well, this is the right thing to do because this is what I see and this is what I'm taught, so let me keep doing it.
Yeah.
I have a resident where I work where he has personally called me into our timeout room and said to me, my mom said that it was okay if I laid with my little sister.
Mhm.
My mom told me it was okay if the dog laid next to me. Like, I mean, I could go in depth with
Yeah,
that.
you
but
have to.
yeah, like your mom is telling you these things. So then you think back, well, what happened to her?
Right.
Like, why is it
Yeah.
okay for her to say this
It's
to her child?
generational.
Because-
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's generational trauma.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
amazing, like the cycle that this stuff
Right.
goes through. That they're like, well, this is okay,
Right.
And I think that's important for what we do too, is to break the generational. It doesn't have to be as intense as what you're talking about,
Mhm.
but just anything, whether it's just education. Like we talk a lot about racism. We talk a lot about just social, bigotry, stuff like that. And it's just bringing attention to it, and letting people know that that's not how things are supposed to be, and then kind of letting them use their own decisions to what to move forward with. What's our time check? 24 minutes.
Wow.
I know this is going by quick. So TF is trauma
Trauma-focused CBT.
focused. Yeah.
But basically, the other two are internal family systems, is what I talked about, is getting to know the parts of yourself, like if it's a perfectionist part, or if it's a trauma child age, when this happened to me, my 4-year-old, that one moment where this happened to me, and then developing protector parts. So say I was bullied in middle school, but I got A's, and I realized, ooh, if I get A's, I feel good. But I didn't put that to connection. So now I'm a workaholic overachiever because in middle school, that's what lit up. What fires together wires together neurobiologically. So in that moment when I was bullied, that hurt, that A felt good. And then I developed a part of me that I didn't realize was always going on. Why am I always working so hard? Why do I want to seen as smart? Why do I want to get the A's? And that developed. And if I stop and slow down and look at my life, I can be like, hey, part that wants to get A's, you can calm down. Like, you're not being bullied anymore. You're 45.
We're going to sit down
let's
with
take
you
a break.
and a mechanic, and we're gonna put a direct correlation between the parts of a car in our brain, and we're going to make everything work out so that way we can associate everything with our brain with a car, because guys understand cars.
Oh.
So that's how we're going to teach
You're
them.
going to have to teach me about cars.
Someone's got to teach me about them. But
And then,
I want to ask you this before we wrap up, or whatever's going to happen. I'm assuming, correct me if I'm wrong, but you are always working on making yourself better because you see flaws in yourself just the same as Justin and I.
Yeah.
When I'm sitting in the therapy room, like I said before, I have to be really aware of my own stuff and what I'm working on. So every person is growing. Every person has something to work on. Every person has hurts. Every person has a story. So I think it's really important to be aware of that in that room, and not, you have to hold a boundary for that in that room, because it's about there's stuff at the same time, things light up in your own self that you remember, or that's triggered, or that you say, I want to work on that too. But I think it's really good as a therapist to realize that you're a human being and humans are messy. And that really just makes it a collaborative experience. So,
absolutely.
I've learned being bipolar, you have different, type 2 bipolar I am. You don't have different perceptions. I don't want to say you have different opinions on things daily, but you definitely have different ways to approach things. And now that I'm like 2 years into like being bipolar and being medicated and knowing it.
You've been 25, 30 years into bipolar.
Correct.
Now you know about it.
Now I know it. And I've said this before. I'd sold cars for 15 years. There were some people I talked to all day about it. Everything, kids, friends, family, job, all that kind of stuff. There's other people I said like 5 words to, and they still bought, and they left. And it's unbelievable, because you said you have to be present in the moment, but you don't always have it. You don't always have your fastball, not every single day. And you still have to be an effective therapist, and you still have, whatever your job is, sales, whatever, you still have to be effective at it. And it's kind of like learning yourself and learning how you are. Like, the better you are, the better you can be for them. And that's kind of like, go to therapy, be better for yourself. That way you can show up better for the people around you. So yeah. And
I'll literally say to sometimes a client, this has been really helpful for me, or this is something my therapist taught me, and this is how I use it
too. Knowing that they helped you as being a professional.
Everybody wants to be needed. Everybody wants to be good at stuff. Everybody wants to
And then the final therapy I do is EMDR therapy.
That's completely new. I have no idea what that is. So talk to us about that.
So that's the best practices for trauma therapy. So that's going to be something people Google. But like it's a rapid eye movement therapy. So wow. This is where you can tell I'm 51, because I'm like, okay, EMDR therapy. But basically it's bilateral stimulation of your brain, where you work through all parts of your brain that light up in a trauma. So where you feel it physically, what is the negative cognition or thought that you learn to believe about yourself? Like, I should have done something is one. And then, where you feel it in your body, what the thought is, what emotions you had with it. and then working to get their distress level down.
Yeah.
But by using the right and left brain stimulation, you lower the distress, like your amygdala is firing off when you're working through your trauma story. If you calm that down that way, your adaptive brain can come up. And I feel like it's kind of like, so as we work out through the story, I'll set someone off and then I'll do the eye movement and I'll have them process it in themselves. And then I pull them out and they come out with these amazing insights in healing. And then in between sessions, their brains work through it. Like through dream, or they continue to unload their story.
Wow.
And it's really impactful.
That's pretty cool. It's like
really
almost
interesting.
like laboratory stuff, like simulation. Like I don't know how to
it's
put it
a
into
lot
words.
different than talk therapy. But I've seen a lot of movement. Like I can work with a client for a couple years on trauma, and I'll do EMDR with them, and then we're through.
It's almost like they get a second chance to go back and
relive,
actually do something about it, because you can talk, but I think the three of us might be the same. Like you actually want to do something about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I can sit and talk, but man, you give me one chance to like go back and see, especially when you have a dream and you're about to do whatever, catch a big fish and wake up, it's like shit.
Yeah, let's go back.
Let's go back.
Or let's go back and I'll be with you and let's figure out how to get that fish.
Yeah.
And what did you need right now when you were with getting to that fish? What would have been helpful? Or what did you believe because you couldn't catch the fish?
It wasn't strong enough.
So like working through that.
Yeah.
Is like that's what the EMDR does.
That's
like
really awesome.
I like that. That's pretty incredible. Well, will you come back on?
Definitely.
Good, because today we just kind of got to know each other a little bit.
We're a little over an hour in, and it just doesn't feel like we covered anything. So.
I know. So this is good.
This is great.
You'll.
Sure.
I don't care. I mean, anytime you can come back. We got a couple people scheduled in the next couple weeks, but I want you to come back on soon. So
thanks for having me.
Yeah, this is awesome. All right.
Yeah.
I'm excited. I feel like we're glowing now, but it's time to stop. All right.
Okay.
All right, guys.
Let's get out of here. All right. See you guys. Love you guys.
Bye.
Love you.
Go outside.
Oh, you said it this time.
Gotcha.
Go outside.
That's
That's what you say. Yeah.